We have our first Champions League finalist. Inter Milan defeat AC Milan 3-0 in aggregate, 1-0 on the night. And this is their first final since 2009 and 2010 under Jose Mourinho when they won the treble. Luis Miguel Echegaray in the house. And of course, Janusz, Michallik to recap the action and to talk a little bit more as well about Real Madrid and Man City. But first, Simone Inzaghi, Inter Milan, they're in the Champions League final. Janusz, Michallik, your initial reactions, my friend.
Look, I just had a good feeling about Inter. I really did. And you know, you've mentioned Jose Mourinho. And one of my first thoughts when I was watching in the group stage, remember, I mean, in the group stage, they had it tough with Barcelona and Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich at that time, with Nagelsmann winning everything, right? They won all 6 games or all 8 with him. But in the group, I mean, Inter did very well in that group as well. So I thought they were tested. Obviously, it's easy to say that, you know, then came Porto, although they were very tight games. And that's why it reminds me a little bit of Jose Mourinho. When I was watching these games against Porto, and even the first game, remember when they beat Benfica away, it was something that I always, maybe I overthink this with Jose Mourinho, but to me, Inter has that defensive organizational DNA when they need it. It very often lets them win big games or stay in them. Of course, the second game against Benfica was 3-1, and there was some drama in the end, but I just always feel that it doesn't really matter to them how they win it. When those big moments come in, they find ways over the years. And that's why at the time, I actually thought after the group stages, you know, then of course I saw Porto as the first opponent. I said to myself, you know what? I think Inter has a chance to get to the final. I don't know what's going to happen there, but I had a really good chance that, thought that they would be there. And here we are.
Yeah, here we are. And you're being humble, my friend. Janusz Michallik on Polish TV.
It's a humble brag. It's a humble.
Janusz Michallik on Polish TV said in the group stages that Inter Milan would get to the final. They laughed at him, and look at him now and Inter Milan. Janusz, you need to brag. You deserve it.
Doesn't happen very often, so I'll take my glory. It was a humble brag.
And we'll talk about the chances of either Real Madrid or Man City against Inter later on. But it was a win for Inter as well, 1-0 on the night. Lautaro Martinez, by the way, his 99th goal for Inter Milan. One more, of course, and he'll be the 11th player for Inter to score that century. So that's fantastic for him. And obviously, Romelu Lukaku holding the ball with the assist. He'll be returning to Chelsea unless something magical happens between then and now. But Janusz, Inter Milan, we talked about them. I was very disappointed with AC Milan. Pioli didn't make an offensive change till after that goal as well. What did you make of Pioli's AC Milan today?
Well, I mean, who are you going to bring, right? I mean, the biggest difference is, of course, the benches of both sides. We could see that in the first game. The first game obviously sets it up because I think, when you lose, the first goal, it's a soft set piece, something that Milan has had issues this season and as of late as well. And then, of course, the first goal, then comes the second very, very quickly because it's, I think Milan were a little bit shell-shocked that I think the approach of Inter was very, very interesting. And as we've heard in the commentary, at least here, it's true. I mean, they play the wings back very, very high. They made it very difficult for Milan to build out of the back. And the goals made that easy. And they could have had that tie done in the first half. They didn't. They opened, they opened the window. They did maybe put an exclamation mark on that. But in this game, I just felt that they were always in control. You just didn't feel looking at Leao and the way they dealt with him in the second game. Again, Inter don't care. They came home because that was a home game for them. And all of a sudden, instead of very high fullbacks, they knew that they had to pay attention to Leao. It happened exactly with Dumfries, who was, they were basically playing with 5 in the back. Even Di Marco had to go a little bit more back because I thought that Junior Messias, I don't think he did a great job, but better than Salamakers in the first game.
Yeah, and Rafa Leao definitely didn't seem 100%. That was for sure.
Well, he was always in the wrong positions, as you saw it. But, I mean, give Dumfries a lot of credit. I mean,
what a player, Dumfries.
Very often one-on-one. Inter were forcing him inside. And, I mean, it's funny to look at this game because Milan had a little bit of joy on the outside. But the only reason for that is that you just can't get through that Inter's midfield. I mean, if you watch them tactically, the way they think, the way they compensate for each other, those three players in the midfield, and even when Mkhitaryan went off injured, Brozovic obviously changes maybe that shape of that midfield just a little bit, but it's almost for the better, isn't it? I mean, here's Brozovic, would normally be, if not for injuries, probably picks himself in every starting 11 there. So Milan were forced to play outside, and yet their best player spent most of his time coming inside. So that was kind of interesting. I thought that maybe Junior Messias, some of those early crosses, those in-swingers, had a chance, but Giroud was just never able to get on the end of them.
Yeah, a very stoic Inter Milan for sure. And as we reminded you in the intro, a final in the Champions League for the first time since 2009, 2010. How about a word here for the goalkeeper, specifically Onana there, Janusz Michallik, the most saves in the Champions League, keeps a clean sheet in both legs. What a keeper, huh?
Yeah, but, probably Mike Maignan too. I mean, one mistake in the end, but I mean, ahead of that, he kept Milan in this tie for the longest time, because you kind of always felt that if Milan somehow gets a goal, then of course everybody gets a little bit nervous. Yes, Onana and Maignan, one of the best in Europe. No questions about that. They have proven over and over. I mean, not a lot to deal there for Onana, but every time he's called upon, even those half chances here and there, I think assured of himself, right? I mean, he really feels good having those three players in front of him, very often five. And then when you add that magical midfield, I suppose his job is a little bit easier, but still at times you have to prove to everybody in front of you that when called upon, you can get the job done. Onana did. I felt for Mike Maignan, because today, I mean, that save on Dzeko, yeah, I mean, it's reflex, but you still have to save it. And even there were two saves where there were fouls called and one offside. I don't know if you remember, very early in the game, Mike Maignan saved a volley.
Yeah, the one-hander with his left.
From Edin Dzeko was unbelievable. That, of course, that wouldn't have counted, but it gave them the confidence that he was showing throughout the game until, of course, I guess you look at that goal squeezed in on the near post, you feel that he needs to do better.
Yeah, tremendous performance from both keepers for sure. Let's focus on the managers for a second. Let's go to the losing one for a bit, because there was a little bit of murmuring, Janusz Michallik, about the fact that, Pioli, he loses this one or loses this one badly, and his job could be on the line. I mean, I know it's tough. AC Milan won the league last season. They're fifth in Serie A right now. They lead right here. What do you make of Pioli's fate and his future moving on from here?
It's going to be difficult, because there's no excuse. I mean, you can concentrate on the Champions League. Of course, a team like Inter or Milan, I mean, it obviously it's been a while. So I think, Italian teams, Serie A teams have been a great surprise in Europe this season as well, proving that there's more to life than just Premier League and maybe La Liga, if you will. Those are usually the two that we talk about, maybe before Bundesliga or Serie A. But yes, that cycle has ran. I mean, what they have done or haven't done in Serie A is quite incredible. Even, the last game against Spezia, fighting for their life, losing their 2-0. I just think that, you look at the season, normally when you're in the semifinal of the Champions League, you say to yourself, my goodness, what a season. I wonder what they're going to be thinking, because I, as a player, will look at it, well, an opportunity lost against our biggest rival to be in the final, right? If you Milan, Istanbul obviously has a bigger meaning there to maybe get things right. And then you look at them now, fifth place, 4 points behind. I mean, it's not impossible, but highly unlikely they'll make it. And I just can't imagine what a letdown that will be, the loss today, in terms of getting the players up. So unless Pioli somehow finds a way to get back in the Champions League next season, I highly doubt it. And even if he did, I still think that Milan will look for somebody else.
Yeah, at this moment, AC Milan are 4 points away from Lazio, who are in fourth place, and the games are obviously ending very soon as the season is wrapping up.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.